All right. Well, welcome back to module number 15. And we want to look at now the working process. And we're looking at working process for two purposes, two, only two. One is the efficiency of the operation. And then the second is to reduce costs as fast and as dramatically as we possibly can. Now, looking at that, you should know going in what you are going to do in the first 90 days. How would you know that? Because when you did the due diligence, you sort of did a pseudo map of how things happen in the business. You know how things operate in the business. Therefore, you're able to say, okay, I need to do this and I need to do that. So let's get right into it. Again, welcome to module number 15. So, working process is all about operational efficiency. Operational efficiency in terms of increasing the or reducing the time something takes, uh, increasing the volume, and reducing costs. And so the first thing you want to do related to your working process is to do a process map. You want to map out every single process that there is from the time the customer walks in to the time you ring the cash register and what you do afterwards. And so that becomes very important in understanding how the system is running. What do I mean by understanding how the system is running? Well, you are going to have performance metrics, which I'll talk about in a moment. So the first thing is just literally box by box. Here is the work in process, a visual. I like to just basically take it, write it out, or type it out. Here's the step one, step two, step three, blah, 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 and then give it to an AI and say, build me a visual of this process map, build me a process map. Again, I am always trying to leverage artificial intelligence. So we want the process map. We want in that process map, within those boxes are procedures. We want to document, if they haven't been documented, we want to document standard operating procedures as if it was a franchise. Every single step. You need to be able to have a 16-year-old, unless it's a professional agency, doctor, attorney, CPA, those types of things where you require a some form of special certification. And even then you want to from an operational perspective, you absolutely want to document and understand how the processes work, and a 16 or 17-year old a high schooler should be able to run your operation based on your standard operating procedure. I know, you're going to say, well, they can't run that business. Yes, they can. If they can run a multi-million dollar McDonald's, they can run your business. Believe me. And so you want to make sure that we have standard operating procedure if they don't have it already. Now, having standard operating procedure, knowing I know what happens in this procedure, and I have this process map, and then within this process map, within this first box, I know what happens. Now I can say, okay, let's put a metric to that. What's the performance metric there? What happens in that box? How much? What is the performance now? How long does it take? How many units are we consuming, etc.? What's the performance of that box? What's the objective of that box? And what's the performance of it? Once you understand the performance, now you can put together an improvement plan or something that allows you to improve the performance of that. So you have the map, you have the standard operating procedures, then you have the performance metric, and then you understand what's the cost in that box. What is it costing me? So an employee does this process first. What does that cost? And you have to really break that down. And when I say really break it down, it's not, you don't have to be a rocket scientist or a mathematician, but you really need to break it down. So it takes that person 20 minutes to make that to do that performance, and we're paying them, or let's just say it takes 30 minutes. Make something really simple and easy. It takes you 30 minutes, half an hour, and we're paying them you know $25 an hour uh, as a wage. Okay, so we know that that box takes $12.50 in essence. How can we reduce that? What and when you look at your your business as a complete system of processes and being able to break those down and being able to understand what the performance metrics are in each of those and the cost metrics, then you can say, okay, now the next step is, how can I automate any of these boxes? What can I do? What can I do as it relates to customer support? What can I do as it relates to the tracking of it? What can I do as it relates to reaching out? How can I automate all these systems through what? Artificial intelligence. So you bring in a company like ours to look at how you can literally go through the system and automate it. What we have, and I mentioned it in the due diligence part, is we have a GPT that allows us to basically upload the financials, and from the financials, specifically from the expenses, we get an opportunity to see where we can automate. It's the same. It's literally the same, because if you think about the expenses, the expenses show up in your process map and your performance metrics and your cost metrics. And so all the GPT is doing is going, okay, you have an expense here, here, and here. We think we can automate this, this, and this. And so it already gives you clues going in as to where you can automate. You should also know, from an operational efficiency perspective, going in whether you have process maps. So if you don't, you know that you're going to do that. You know going in that you have standard operating procedures. If you don't, you know that you're going to do that. You know going in what the performance metrics are. If they have standard operating procedures and if they have a process map, you should be able to predict or understand what the performance metrics are. And then you should be able to put a cost to that. Now you can go, okay, I can do all of that. That's great. Now I want to do that in automation. And that's the whole point. And so going forward, you want to have your operational efficiencies and looking at maps, SOPs, performance metrics, cost metrics, and then how can you automate all of those things. All right. So now you've looked at your capital acquisition, you've looked at your customer acquisition, you've looked at your work in process. The next thing we'll look at is something a little different, which is your management system. All right. We'll see you on the next video.